before we get into this, I want to talk just a little bit about what immersive horror is. And I'm very interested. Obviously, Justin's going to be able to add a good bit to this as well. Um, when you think of a regular haunted house, you're kind of watching everything unfold around you. You get to see things happening. You get to see the story in front of you, but you don't really get to participate. You see horrific things and you see cool things, but again, you're not an integral part of the story. You could be taken out and it doesn't affect anything that's going on in a regular style haunted house for the most part. It's not the case with Miasma or immersive horror in general. You are the story. You are the crux of everything that's happening. You see and experience everything that happens inside. And the story is built around you. Without you in there participating and doing what you need to do, and these don't work at all. But if you're willing to walk inside, put your trust in these people, and just experience it, and just let go of things, it can be an absolutely awesome experience. I wanted to tell you, Justin, I hadn't really spoken about this yet. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this was a life-changing experience or anything like that, because it's nothing like that. But what it has done is it has showed me that things that I've looked at in my life as bigger obstacles to overcome aren't really that challenging in light of some of the things that I know that my body can go through and can be better on the opposite end of it for it. And for example, I have smoked cigarettes for a long time. I have smoked one cigarette since I left your attraction.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Congratulations.
So I mean, maybe one or two, something like that. But it's I haven't smoked any in about the past 4 or 5 days, and every time that I get that urge, I'm not going to mention what it is I think back to, but there is a certain scene, and you probably know which one I'm talking about because I told you it was the one that almost got me. I think back to that, and I'm like, if I can make it through that, this is nothing.
Oh yeah.
This is nothing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting effect. I'll add it to the immersive horror can help you quit smoking.
It can. If you go in with the right attitude, it can. What we're going to do now is we are going to hop into what is our traditional review segment. Justin, you feel free at inner time to interject and throw in a couple little things there if you'd like. If you want to just listen the whole time, that's fine as well. But this is kind of our story with Miasma and how Homecoming made us feel, and the story that we took away from it. You arrived at the location, right? The precise time you were instructed. Don't be early. Don't be late. That phrase has been repeated to you, feels like 100 times throughout the day, before the day of the event. All the interviews, emails, weird phone calls, strange messages, they've all led to this spot right here. Omaha, Nebraska, standing in front of a gravel driveway. The thought crosses your mind, what the fuck am I doing here this evening? But as that thought crosses your mind, you find yourself walking down the driveway, and you see him, the one from prior instructions, bald man, black shirt. Place your right hand on his left shoulder, just as you were told. Another test, I'm sure, to see if you were going to listen once inside. He gently places his hand over yours and points beside him, instructing you to sit. You read the paperwork, reiterating exactly what you have gotten yourself into and what you have signed up for. The weird part is, up to this point, the guy's actually being kind of nice, and you're not really sure how to take that. And then once the contract is signed, you're immediately instructed to get on your knees and start digging. That thought crosses through. That was the experience I was expecting. And as you did, you find a small glimpse of hope. You take your gift, you stand in front of a metal door, and as you open the door and you look down a long, dark hallway, you start to click what little light you have, and off in the distance you see a masked figure. Clearly, that masked figure is waiting for you. And the thought crosses your mind one last time, what exactly did I just sign up for? And that was our introduction into what is, honestly, has become my favorite haunt, period. I mean that.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
To the stuff about it a little bit. Just did Stag a little bit ago. It was vice versa. Stag really messed with her and got in her head, and it didn't mess with me as much. Moving into some facts about Miasma. Now, Omaha is your hometown, right?
Yeah, that's where I grew up.
Okay. All right. Was that the whole basis for Homecoming, I'm assuming, a little bit as far as the title?
Yeah, thematically, it just seemed like the right place to do that show.
Awesome. Awesome. Miasma's not easy to get into. He does not,
No.
it's not a simple walk up and buy a ticket at the door. That'll never, ever happen, I don't think. There's a little bit of a vetting process that you got to go through. Number two, it's making sure that you've got the right people with the right mindset to do this, that are going to come in and play along and make the haunt what it needs to be. Again, it's not easy. You're not going to, if you just think that, oh, I'll just buy a ticket right beforehand, or oh, I'll just catch the next show. You're probably not going to see it. We were watching for months, waiting for the right opportunity, and the second the tickets were available, man, we clicked on it. We were ready to roll. And that's the thing. How quickly did you sell out for Homecoming?
We usually, for all our shows, it's usually under an hour. Limited tickets, you have to be quick, you have to be on the ball. We were actually nice this time, which probably won't happen again, and we gave a warning an hour before. Usually we just tell you around the time they'll be available, and you just have to watch. That's so the dedicated people that really want to go get their chance.
Very cool. Very cool. They also have a Facebook page. Do you have a website as well?
We do. It's www.miasmaate, so miasmaate.com. You have to register. You have to be on the email list. You'll never get a ticket unless you're actually on that email list. So if anybody watching is interested, you have to be on the email list. Otherwise, you'll never get in.
Heard. And that's very true. And also, go over to their Facebook page. Give them a like. They do update there a little bit as well. So, I mean, it's not going to give you any insider scoops or any advantage over the email list. But seriously, go over, give them a like. And if you miss the event, you can at least go over there and count how many people have tapped out and cried safety during the night at least. So you can at least get little smiles about that.
You can stay a little involved.
Absolutely no line interaction to talk about. I know we always talk about line interaction. Honestly, there's no line. You show up when you're supposed to show up, right on time, not a second early or a second late.
It's bad.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Do what?
That.
Do what?
Yeah.
That's right.
So don't be late, don't be early, and there's no line to talk about. The experience starts immediately, and it's all centered around you. That's what we want to talk about now. We want to talk about the story that was presented to us in this experience and a little bit about what we saw. If you think you're about to figure out everything that goes on inside of this place, you are so far out in left field right now. And if you're watching this hoping that's going to happen, just go ahead and shut it down, because that's not going to happen at all. We're going to talk about just a we're going to give you literally a small sample of something that you can expect inside, and kind of what our experience was a little bit of the story, and that's it. And, we want you all to go experience this for yourself when you're ready. And we're going to talk about the being ready for this and not just thinking, oh, well, I did a couple haunted houses last year. This sounds like fun. You need to be prepared. But anyways, enough of that. The story presented to you in this experience does require your willingness to participate without question or hesitation. Regretfully, this in and of itself will create some turmoil for you. It's going to set the tone for the entirety of the show. The opening scene, and not the hallway that we were talking about, the real first true opening scene, is where you're going to find out who the true monster in this experience is. And regretfully, turns out this monster's been with you the whole time. The horrific scene that unfolds before you is absolutely 125% clearly wrong, but you not only watch, you participate. Without question, without hesitation, you jump right in there. Spend the rest of your experience psychologically and physically trapped in your own actions. Things begin to unfold after the opening scene, and really the things that are happening to you, the thoughts that run through your mind is really, honestly, you deserve this for what you did. This isn't, nobody's attacking you. You were the one that walked in and did what you did. And now you have to deal with that. And the questions start to rise. Is this something that you can really live with? And you sit in a chair holding a plastic bag in your hand. And then all of a sudden the question begins to arise is, well, who are you? What are you doing? And are you figuring it out a little bit? As all those thoughts come through your head, You've been through some experiences. You're struggling to catch your breath, gain your bearings. I can tell you what, that was the one thing. Every haunted attraction I go to, I have a game plan before I walk into it, and I have a strategy in my head, and I know, okay, if this happens, I deal with it this way. And all these different scenarios, I was never able to regather my composure enough to be able to do that. So I was constantly trying to play catch up, which is something I've never experienced before. You know,
there was a moment with you where I'm not going to say what happened, but there was a moment where I could see that you let go of something. You had a defense mechanism we recognized, and you let it go. I won't say which scene, but you let it go for the rest of the show. It's very interesting. So what you're saying, it's really interesting you're saying that because we could actually actively see you do that.
Yeah.
You guys caught on to a lot because my game plan worked until you realized what I was doing.
Well, I had never done something to this level before, and I was, if you've watched the before videos, I was clearly nervous beforehand, and it's just how I deal with things. I have to have a strategy, and something that makes me feel like I'm still in control of the situation. And I apologize for you having to see the things that you saw that night. It wasn't just me that got a horrific scene in front of him. I apologize. I'm not, yeah.
You don't need to. That's what we see all night.
So
that's what we exist for.
But anyways, hopping back to where we were there a little bit. And you're sitting in a chair, plastic bag in your hand. You start to really kind of think about what it is exactly they're trying to tell you. What it is exactly they're trying to show you. Everything that happens inside has a purpose. It's just a matter of, can you figure it out? And can you put it together? And can you figure out why these things are happening to you? And as those thoughts are running through your head, you look up and now you're face to face with your victim from the original scene again. And now it's not only a question of who are you, it's a question of how could you? And somebody that was a stranger, yes, somebody that you could have loved, and somebody that you victimized. And now you have to look that person face to face, and you think about your actions and what you've done to get you there as she slaps the taste out of your mouth, rightfully so. But it's very interesting dynamic to be forced into that situation and then forced to face your victim, not able to just run from that scene. This is what you did. Look at it, face it, deal with it. How are you going to respond? Again, struggle to catch your breath as you think about some of the choices that you've made that led you to this point. You just had to face your victim again. Everything that's happened to you has happened because of the decisions you made initially. So you're really, honestly, you're the disgusting monster inside the haunt. You're the villain. And now you find yourself biting down on the barrel of a gun, and you don't have any other choice but to pull the trigger. And that's not a metaphor. That's the situation you find yourself in. The gun in the mouth, and you have to. I mean, how can you live with the choices that you've made? And then you find yourself lying on the floor, blood around you. Suddenly, you get shocked back to life. They give you this last little final thought, a little bit of hope, because they took all your hope away in the beginning. But they leave you with a little bit at the end. So if you're ever given a chance, write your name on hearts, not tombstones. All of that doesn't do this place anywhere near the justice that it deserves. I can't give this place the justice that it deserves. Because what it deserves is for it to be, for everybody to really genuinely see not just what the haunt was, but the passion that went behind it and the execution that went behind it and how every single thing led up to this beautiful crescendo at the end. But you have to go to actually get all of that. I hope that what we've given is just enough of a taste to interest you all even more and make you all want to go and experience it. This was genuinely, and I've been through several haunts. I have never came to the end of a haunt and felt like I was almost in a light state of shock. So at the end of it, you know, he's talking and Justin, he sits me down and he says, "Hey man, it's over. It's over. You did it." I didn't believe him at all. I thought for sure, you know, I could see an actor off in the background, and I was like, no, this is a setup. There's more coming. And when I finally realized that it was over and that I had reached the end, the dynamic with how I looked at Justin, the dynamic changed so much whenever when I realized it was over. It went from somebody that I wasn't scared of, but there was some trust issues at times, and you know, in the situation, you know, he is the aggressor at times, and you know, I guess if you were to label somebody other than yourself a protagonist, you know, it's kind of him. And then at the end of it, when you realize, holy shit, okay, everything starts to click as to what was just showed to you, I wanted to just run up and give him a hug. I couldn't because I was sweaty and disgusting, and he'd already had enough of all of that, I'm sure, at that point in time. But I mean, that was my initial reaction. Is I've never had that. I've never left a haunt, looked at somebody that was with me through the majority of it, and then just wanted to run up and hug them afterwards. That's different. I don't know how people usually respond at the end of it.
You'd be amazed that I've actually heard that before. If you recall, you were embraced at a certain point, and that's something we do very purposefully. Because of that, we've heard that before, so it went along with the final line of the experience.
Yes, very cool. We are now going to transition over, before we get into the ratings, and exactly how this place did. And clearly they probably did a pretty decent, sure they got some pretty decent scores. We haven't really said anything bad. So we're not going to get into that quite yet. We want to talk a little bit about not Homecoming itself, but back to the origins of this haunt. How did, from idea one, how did this come into being?
You know, it's somewhat of a backward story. I was writing short stories and screenplays for about a decade, all horror. But the problem with the medium of writing, you can't see the audience reaction. So after doing that for a long time, especially if it's, you know, unpublished and unproduced, but I wanted people to actually see the stories. And I had been in bands for years before that too. And as I got to the end of simply writing, I realized what I missed was watching the audience react, watching the chaos of, you know, because it was all heavy metal, so the chaos of heavy metal, I guess.
Yeah.
And that was probably around 2011, 2012. And at that time, immersive theater, immersive horror, and extreme haunts started. That was when they really started coming, you know, being a lot more public. Yeah. And really being known. And of course that I became obsessed with them because I was like, wait, you get to go there and it's like a whole nother world and there's nothing else that matters. Yep. So I started experiencing those things, and like a lot of creators that are doing extreme haunts, immersive theater, and immersive horror, you end up going, you say, I want to try this. I think I could do something good. And then that was where it started. 2015, I believe, was our first show. And that was where I gathered up all the people and said, okay, I'm going to try this crazy thing. Will you help me out? Let's see how it goes. And everybody that did it loved it. And we've had almost 80% of the same crew the entire time.
Very cool.
So that's really where it came from.
You have a phenomenal crew working for you as well. I know that you know that already, but you have an awesome crew. Everybody deserves a solid round of applause, especially from the evening that we got to experience with you guys. Great job all around. So Miasma is very, very story driven. What's that? Do we have any repeat stories, or is every experience a whole brand new story presented to the victim, I guess?
That's an interesting question, because it's every show we do is a completely different story. The Homecoming is actually somewhat of a thematic sequel to a show we did in 2016. So that's actually the second time the character of Jay had appeared. Okay. He's never been in any other show except these two. Okay. And while they're not the same shows, they're thematically linked. And then this was kind of let's go back there. Let's see if we can do something like that a little bit harder, a little bit better now that we're more experienced, and then put a nail in the coffin of Jay and move on.
Okay, all right.
But other than that, every story, and sometimes they're not, we've had shows, 3 years ago we had a show not quite as extreme as what you experienced, and they can always be different. I mean, we do warn that they usually are pretty extreme. And in the show I just mentioned, there were things in there that, while they weren't the same physically as what you experienced, they were equally traumatizing types of things that you wouldn't want to do. So the experience is always completely different, and that's kind of what keeps people coming back, is that they know the next time we're doing a show, it's a whole new world. Like, you don't know what you're going to get hit with.
Awesome.
Not physically, just mentally.
Now, as far as the creation of these stories, do you basically put them together yourself? Not getting into too much detail and giving away secrets. How does kind of the creative process work from, okay, we're going to have an event on this date, let's get our asses in gear and get ready for it? What's kind of the process behind that?
Well, we've been doing this for a while, and I'd say that it's probably gotten a little more streamlined over the years, but every story starts right here, or more, really in a notebook filled with random jottings that I might see a picture and be like, that's the most amazing picture of all time. I want to base a show off that picture.
Okay.
It's hard to say where everything comes from, but I write the script, and then I show it to 2 of my partners, and their input comes in, and then we refine it a little bit to get it to a Miasma show, to exactly, our brand and what we do. So, yeah, it all starts with just a pencil and a piece of paper and whatever I have scribbled down, saying, okay, I'm going to start here, and that's how where every show comes from.
Is there a show you look back on that is maybe got a little bit more of a special place in your heart, or maybe one that you would look back on as kind of your favorite one that you've done so far?
Man, it's hard to say. Every show has moments that I'll never forget.
Us too.
It's really hard. It's really hard to say. I don't favor one over the other, because some of them are so different. What you experienced in Omaha and Homecoming couldn't be more different than what we did in September 2018 in Integrate Silence.
Okay.
It's so hard to say, because with this format, we can kind of explore anything we want, because we do it because we love it. We're not a big haunt trying to get 1,000 people through that have expectations. The expectations are just on us as artists. So yeah, it's hard to answer that question. I love them all. Look, that's what I can say.
That's a very politically correct question.
That's true.
No, I get it, man. It's hard to pick something like that. So this is the first time that you've traveled outside of Chicago to put one on. What were some of the challenges you experienced leaving kind of your home base and doing one elsewhere?
There's a certain sense of since we've always done them in Chicago, we have a base team here of myself and 2 other people, and we together put everything. We do the scouting, we do the writing, production, just getting everything prepared. It's basically 3 people doing it until about the week of, and then the rest of the crew comes in, and then they add their input, and everything comes together. But we're always doing that in our home base, so we had to the hardest part was giving up a little bit of control.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the growing pains of like a lot of people, like small businesses and businesses that grow, is that someone does everything, and then eventually you have to ask someone else to do it. So it was really hard for the 3 of us to ask another person, say, hey, can you do this? And then call them 20 times. Like, did you do that thing? Did you do it right? Did you do it great? And of course they did. I mean, we had people that we trusted, and they took on someone that had been with the show since we've started. 2 people, actually. Well, several people, I shouldn't say 2. And they want this to be a great show just like we do, and they did a fantastic job. But the challenge is just giving up a little bit of that control and trusting someone else to do it the way you do it. And of course they did. Now we're comfortable with it, and now we know we can do it.
Very cool. The heat was pretty extreme that night. Probably something that you haven't had to deal with in Chicago too much. Did that present any real issues for you that night, other than everybody sweating their balls off?
I wish I could own that element and say that was planned, because it really did add to the show in a way we've never been able to.
Yeah.
We could never mimic that. There are certain elements that don't work very well in heat that we had to give up.
Oh.
I won't say what that was. You didn't miss anything.
It's fine. I'll probably be peeing later on about it.
Yeah, I mean, just the heat. As you can imagine, we were in that space for a few days, and it felt like that for a few days. So yeah, it was rough, but once guests start coming through, you kind of forget about it until you get out the door, and then we remember, oh my God, it's hot again. But yeah, it was. And as you can imagine, there was as you know, both you and Trish know, there was one particular scene where that heat became a very major element in what was happening.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did. Good. Did it ever?
We did test that scene out a few dozen times. We've done that scene before. We had to test it out several times just to make sure, okay, this is safe. Also, this is not going to be pleasant.
No, and I will humbly admit, I'm not going to give out the scene at all, but if there was ever a moment, I've never had the fight or flight instinct, and Justin and I talked about this a little bit. I've never had the fight or flight instinct kick in my body. I've never felt it before, where I've been in a situation where my body itself just started to panic a little bit and had to force myself to calm down, relax, think about the situation, and work my way through it. And while that particular scene was in no way, shape, or form my favorite, it showed me some things and taught me more about myself a little bit and what I can and can't handle. And it's very cool, and it's an awesome opportunity you present to people for them to be able to figure out what their limits are. There was somebody that did tap in this scene that night.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's not right there something that every single person can come through and do. But if you're able to, the feeling when it's over, it's such a rush of adrenaline, and just you kind of get this, all right, man, what the fuck's next? If I can do that, what the fuck's next? Let's roll. Let's see what you got coming down.
That's great.
Let's talk about the physicality a little bit. Number one, always felt safe here. Never felt in any true actual danger, but it's also a very physical haunt. Do you care to talk a little bit about some of the training that goes in and some of the stuff that you talk to your crew about as far as keeping this safe? Is that something we can get into?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about it.
Okay.
I mean, the number one thing with us is safety. We do put guests through a lot of very physically aggressive situations. First off, part of safety is telling the guest that they're going to experience these things. We're not going to tell you exactly what you're going to experience, but we're going to give you the idea. Part of safety is that the guest has to know what they're getting into. And as you know, we drill it in your head 100 times to make sure by the time you're at the door, you know this is going to happen. As far as the scenes, we practice those among the cast. The scene we just talked about for you, I've done that more times than I'd care to remember. But that's part of it though, is making sure that I would never put a scene or have a scene where I wouldn't do it myself. That's my limit.
Okay.
The limit is I'm not the craziest person out there, so don't worry. But if I won't do it myself, and if I won't go through the show at least 2 times in a row, which I always do, that's one of the key elements. I have to be able to get through it more than once in a row, and it's just practice and making sure that your team knows exactly what they're doing. But part of safety too is the people you have. I trust everybody in that cast. Most everybody I've known for over 10 years. I trust them with my life. The key is they're smart, they're safe, and absolutely trustworthy. I trust them to do everything that we're doing. They're not going to go wild. They're not going to go off on a tangent and say well, it would be crazier if I did this and, I don't know, lit you on fire. but I don't have to worry about those things. I only bring on people I trust and know are smart. Those are the key things, and that's making sure they're trained in what could happen if there is an accident. Everybody knows 100% what could go wrong here if it were to go wrong, and how to react to that.
Okay. Does the cast have to experience the stuff that they're going to put people through as well before they happens?
Yes.
I figured as much. That's always good too, because you don't. I mean, it's you don't want to push it too far and not knowing what that stuff feels like or what effects it can have. That's very smart. I like that. I like that a lot. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about Justin, more than the hunt itself.
Okay.
What got you into horror initially, man?
I'll tell you the truth on that. It was a snow day in 4th grade. School was out. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was on television. That's where it started.
All right.
I was scared to death before then, and then I became obsessed from there. And I've been a horror fan since then. Yeah, that's how I got into horror. But then it's always stuck with me. It's a genre that's always spoken to me, and a genre that's always surprising you. Just when you think horror's dead,
Yeah.
there's something new to, and sometimes it does feel like it. As being a fan for 20 plus years, it does feel like at times there have been where it just feels like nothing's happening. And when I say horror, I do mean movies, books, haunted houses, theater, everything. But then sometimes something will surprise you. And for me, a big wake-up call on, obviously, the medium was extreme haunts, and immersive horror was a real wake-up call, the whole new genre that was happening that I want to be a part of. But yeah, that's where horror started. It's just never left.
Cool. So before you stepped into the immersive side of things, were you a haunt actor or anything like that, in like a walkthrough haunt or anything like that beforehand, or is this your first experience, or doing the opposite side of it? Was there any prior experience, or you just jump into it?
Yeah, actually, there was. I did work in a traditional haunted house in the late 90s. In fact, I was with a few of the castmates in the show you went through. They also worked in that haunt. We worked there for about 3 or 4 years. So, every single night we were acting in there. So that's where we started with haunts. It did, I didn't stay in haunts. I didn't stay working in haunts through that entirety. I kind of lost it a little bit. And then, with immersive theater and immersive horror, that's where I discovered this is what I thought was possibly missing from haunted houses when I wasn't going so often. But in effect, too, it made me love haunts all over again. So now I'm just obsessed with haunted houses as I am with the type of things like we do, like immersive horror and immersive theater.
Okay.
And I shouldn't say immersive theater, I should say extreme immersive theater, just to clarify, because they are different.
Yes.
But no. We did. Many of us worked in haunts in the 90s, back in the fun days.
Okay.
I mean, they're all fun days. I don't know what that means.
Yeah. It's changed though. There was a little more, I think, freedom back in those days than what there is in them today. Not the states weren't as quite involved in them and didn't have their hands in regulations quite as much as it seems like they do nowadays.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're probably right on that. As far as and I hate using this phrase traditional haunts, but I'm just going to keep using it because I can't think of another phrase for it.
Yeah.
A traditional haunt, yeah, there are a lot. I mean, I look for those regulations just to see what they have to deal with, and wow, it is, hats off, like, especially for, keeping it safe too.
Yeah. So you've been involved with again, traditional haunts, obviously extreme immersive. Looking back at all these moments, this is going to be another tough question that you're probably going to be like, man, I don't know. But is there one particular scare that you've gotten out of a guest that you look back on and you're like, man, that was my favorite one ever? And if it was me, I don't want to hear it.
Oh man, I would say our first year, and I can tell this story. our first year, 2015, we were immersive. We did touch you. It was a little bit of an aggressive touch, and our theming was extremely dark, just like you saw, but it wasn't quite as aggressive as we have been in the last couple of years. But this individual had never experienced anything like this, and we couldn't get him to sit. He was very scared, and we learned a lot how to control a guest there. And he was just everywhere, and he was really scared. We just had to get him to, as you know, there's a lot of actions you have to do.
Yes.
And we had to get him to just sit or stand or move over here, and he was all over the place. And unfortunately for us, it was just a real challenge to keep a composure. We did, but we got him through safely. He had an amazing time, but that individual made us. That guy was. I'll never forget him.
Very cool. So you yourself like to go through different immersive horror experiences. We just got back from Stag, and obviously you know all about Stag. What are some of the things when you're going through an experience that isn't your own? What's some of the stuff that really scares you and kind of gets you uneasy?
Wow, if anybody's watching, you're just giving him ammo, aren't you?
Yes, I am, just a little bit, and she is watching. So
I think it's largely the unexpected. I think I'm just, as I'm a creator, but I'm also just a massive fan too. It's the unexpected that gets me, and that's what I really enjoy. Turning the corner, or whatever the equivalent of turning a corner is in wherever you are, and then being presented with a whole new situation of okay, well, what, and trying to find what it is that you're going to be doing,
yeah.
or just being surprised. Sometimes it's not always. Man, I'm trying to think of the last thing that actually scared me. Sometimes it's more just about that heart-pumping, thrill of adrenaline that gets you, and doing it in a horror environment. That's really what drives me, at least for the extreme stuff.
I have to thank you a little bit for the experience beforehand, because whenever
it was empowering.
It was, but whenever I went to do Stag, so when I did yours, I was nervous, I was shaky, I was off my game and everything like that. But then when I went to do Stag, I was like, cool, I can just like roll through this and just have some fun with it. I didn't roll through it at all. They had some interesting moments in there for sure, but I was a lot more confident in my abilities walking into it, and it made Stag a little more enjoyable for me, just because I know what I can handle a little bit better now. And I got to thank you for that. And it was not that I didn't enjoy yours. Like I said, you were my favorite by far.
Well, thank you.
And it was awesome. I'm eagerly anticipating and watching the email daily. I know it's not coming anytime soon, but I'm waiting.
You sure about that?
I'm not sure about that at all, man. I was just assuming. But assuming got me in trouble before, so I'm not going to do that no more. I'm just going to.
Man, I got a month because I need a month.
Both a little beat up, I think.
Well, what you don't know is you rented that hotel from me. I was just kidding.
Is that why my outlets don't work?
Oh, I wish I could snap and your lights would go off right now.
I got to tell them about So we parked like 9 minutes away from the building, and as I was walking up, there's all these fireworks going off, which was whatever. Once I've realized it's just fireworks, whatever. And I'm on the last block. I can see what I believe is the building in the background, and this lady lets her dog out, and this dog just comes charging straight at me, just as hard as he possibly can, barking his head off, screaming, jumping at the fence. And got my blood pumping pretty good before. I was telling him about it afterwards. He was like, "Oh yeah, we set all that up. That dog was just
totally." Yeah, that was one of 20 dogs we hired.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's good timing too, man. Just knew where we were parked and everything. Just ready for it. But anyways, I want to before we get into the ratings, we always like to give everybody the opportunity to have a little shout out, and maybe if there's anybody that they would like to extend a thank you to, talk about their Facebook page, their website one more time. Make sure everybody knows how to get a hold of you if they choose to do so. Before we get into the ratings, I'm going to turn the floor over to you for just half a second and let you kind of close the interview part out.
Something that you said a little bit earlier was going through our experience made Stag a little bit easier to focus on the story. And, you know, that's maybe something, if there's people watching that are starting to get curious because of your adventures, they say, okay, maybe I want to try this. You know, educate yourself.
Yes.
Before you jump into an experience,
Please.
The fans of this type of stuff, including you guys, you know, they're fans, and fans, like anything, will talk to you about it all day. So if you're a little nervous or you don't really know what's right for you, talk to the fans. They love talking about it, and then you might be able to find something that's right for you. There's a certain mindset. There's something I hear every once in a while where I might be talking about what we do, and someone says, well, I want to do the most extreme one. What's the most extreme one? You know, I've heard that a lot, where they say they want to jump in, they don't want to do the victim experience like right away. I mean, you might not be able to stop them, but, you know, maybe find out if victim experience is the right thing for you, or whatever the experience is. That's just an example. And just like you said, like, you'll probably enjoy, if you do a couple that aren't quite the, you know, most extreme thing, you might actually find you'll enjoy the more extreme ones more, and not be so overwhelmed. So, you know, educate yourself and go enjoy and explore. And don't be surprised if you find out you hate it. That's one thing that could happen.
Yeah, this is
you don't have to like it. It's not for everyone.
No, it's not at all. And just to kind of reiterate what he's saying a little bit, again, you know, seriously, you should talk to people. Like, from where we've been able to experience different things, you know, we'd be like, okay, so if you want to try something like this, maybe go try Scarehouse the Basement first, where it's, you know, there's a little bit of contact and a little bit of touch, but it's not going to be too crazy or off the wall. It's still immersive, but it's not quite that extreme. If you can get through Scarehouse the Basement, now maybe go look at this, and, you know, take it in steps. Don't try and think that, oh, I can handle anything that's thrown at me, and just go jump into the toughest one that you can. I've been through a couple, and I probably would not go do the victim experience yet. You know, I think that's, you know, if that's something that's, I'm not even sure if that's still around or what they are or aren't doing at this point, but, you know, everybody.
They aren't doing it. I have done the victim experience.
You have?
Yeah, and it's amazing. But again, that's something that especially not for everyone. But apparently they're not doing it this year, as far as we know. But the Freakling Brothers haunts. I don't know if have you ever done, you guys ever done the Freakling Brothers?
I'm hoping to get out there at some point. Did you go check out?
Their haunts are amazing, like absolutely worth the trip. Even if you can't do the victim experience, you know, if you ever wanted to. But yeah, Freakling Brothers, amazing.
Yeah, I probably will one day. I always say that I don't want to do that. Like when we first started this whole thing, we watched a documentary on Blackout. I'm sorry, my kids are screaming in the background. But we watched this documentary on Blackout. I remember looking at Trish and I was like, nah, there's no way. I'm not doing that at all. And then we started to get into this, and things started to grow a little bit. And she was like, you should throw Blackout as, like, if we hit so many likes, you'll just go do it. And I was like, all right. And I threw it out there, not really thinking that we were going to hit the likes, and I thought I was safe. I set this time frame up on it. I was like, we'll be good. We'll be good. And then we hit it within like a couple of months, and found ourselves in the position that we were in. And then actually never heard anything back from Blackout, and didn't really seem like they were doing anything this year. And then she just kind of signed me up for you. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. But anyway.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you did.
A little rant, I guess. You curious about these ratings at all? Or you just want to go ahead and close it off now?
No, I you know, I'm here. Let's do it. I'm crossing my fingers on this one.
I hear you. So we rate on 4 different categories, and then we end it with an overall experience. We'll talk about the immersive experience, the physicality of the haunt, the acting inside the haunt, the scare factor of the haunt, and then we'll close it out with an overall experience of the haunt. And we'll also talk a little bit about why we gave you the scores that we gave you. Before we get into this, we have spent hours trying to figure out a reason not to give you the scores that we're giving you. We have picked apart every scene that we could possibly think of and genuinely tried to find reasons not to do what we're about to do. I don't like giving out. I feel like if you give out too many high scores, that it kind of takes away from what you're doing. And so
Sure.
whenever we get to a position like that where we're struggling to find negatives, I just want everybody that's watching to know we have analyzed the shit out of this. We have broken it down in every possible way that we can think of, and these are still the scores that we come to every single time. So, that being said, immersive experience, 10 out of 10. You
Damn.
were the story. Without you, there is no haunt. If you do not participate, the experience is over. The focus is on you and you alone. And that is the definition of immersive. There is no part that was not dedicated to you. From walking up the driveway to the end of the thing, I mean, hell, even beforehand, when you're sending out custom messages to people, you know, the messages that Trish got weren't the messages that I got. Everything is designed around you. And it doesn't just start when you walk through the door. It starts well before then, and it's beautifully done the whole way through. So again, immersive experience, solid, 10 out of 10.
Can I jump in there? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Absolutely, man.
On the personal, I actually don't. You and Trish had never mentioned this to me when we talked. Are you guys aware that you had a different scene in the show?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Where you
Okay.
gave her
No,
options and then you took my options away.
Yes.
Yeah. No. Yeah. We're very. We've talked about that extensively.
Okay.
I do think I got the lighter end of the deal a little bit. Out of the two.
I don't know, man.
It was rough. You made me. Yeah. You arched my back several times, but. I don't know. I think she got a little worse than I did.
Maybe.
It took me a while to heal.
Either way. So moving on. Physicality. God damn it, man. It's another 10 out of 10. Always
Thank
safe.
you.
Number one rule that we have with any of these things. Safety. If we don't feel safe, we're out. And we'll let everybody else know about it. But safety was the utmost importance. And on top of that, the physical aspect, everything that you went through made sense. There was never, and don't take this statement wrong, there were never at any point, quote unquote, torturing you, but there was never a scene that felt like pointless torture, that felt like they were just doing something just to do it. Everything had a point. And if you could calm down and think it through, you realized there's telling a story. They're telling it very aggressively, but they're telling a story. And if you'll slow down and listen, it's there. And it was 100% a controlled environment. There was never a point of danger. And there were even times throughout it that you could tell, number one, that you were given a moment of rest. Especially after that one scene that we've talked about a few times, you're given a couple moments to, once it's over, to regain yourself and kind of regain your composure. I mean, you're sitting there in the dark, but it's a rest moment. At least that's how I interpreted it. And, and that's appreciated. It gives you that second to recover and get ready for whatever the next challenge is. And you could tell the whole way through, there's times where you're constantly checking on the safety of the guest and making sure that they're okay. And even at the end there, after that final scene, I kind of stumbled out of the room a little bit because I was still kind of in shock. And I mean, and right there you were, hey, you good? You good? Got you? We're good. And that was it. And I appreciate that's how it's supposed to be done. And at least in my opinion, and you guys, you were perfect on it. I can't find a hole in it. I can't find a bad spot. I can't find a spot that I look at and say they went too far or anything like that. So again, solid 10 out of 10. Moving on to acting. God damn it, Justin. 10 out of 10.
Thank you.
Everyone did what they were supposed to do extremely well. Not just Jay. Everybody played their roles perfectly, from the smallest of scenes to that final scene. And without getting into it, That guy was creepy as shit, and what you had him doing was terrible. And he was creepy as shit without ever saying a word to you up there until the end. And it's just perfect. Just everybody was just perfect.
Thank you.
You look back, I try to find a bad actor. I try to find somebody that wasn't into it, somebody that didn't know their roles, didn't know their lines, messed something up, took you out of the experience for a second. It wasn't there. There just wasn't one. And I promise, we have tried very hard to find one. I feel like when you give out 10 out of 10, sometimes the people look at it as, oh, you're just kissing his ass, or, oh, he just bought your review, or anything like that. None of that like that happened.
Nope.
We paid for these tickets just like anybody else did. We went through this experience just like anybody else did. And number one, it's just pretty, you can ask anybody that we've reviewed, they're not for sale. At all. We don't ask for anything when we go to these places, other than, you know, for maybe a conversation before or afterwards. But we don't, a little different with you because, you know, how the appointments are set up, but we usually don't announce when we're going to be there or anything like that. We just show up, we hop in the line, we go experience it like anybody else. And then afterwards, we try and go talk to them and, you know, and everything like that. And there's times they know that we're coming, but they don't know when we're going to show up. I always worry about giving out scores like this because I don't want it to take away from you guys because you all earned this 100%. So I just want it to be said, I have tried very hard not to do this. But now we get in the scare. And finally we have a 9 out of 10.
Oh.
I know you lost the point. The experience scared me at times, and again, I don't scare easy. The opening scene threw me off my game from the get-go. I was never able to fully recover because of it. It made the challenge tougher for me to get through. Interestingly enough, though, this experience did not scare Trish the way that it did me. She came through it a little easier, and there was one scene there at the end that we thought could have been pushed just a little bit more, and we already talked to you about that a little bit, to maybe kind of add to that element a little bit. So again, nitpicking the shit out of it. We had to find one little thing in there that we were kind of like, that could have been a little bit better right there. And that was it. And it's still a solid score. Even Trish, you know, wasn't as scared as I was, but was still scared at times and still had some rough moments throughout the haunt. So 9 out of 10. And before we get into the last part of overall experience, we decided last year to do an actor of the year for our haunts, and we were kind of debating between whether or not we were going to include immersive horror in it this year or not, because, you know, we weren't sure if it was really fair, because the immersive actors get so much more time to
that's true,
than what the walkthrough actors do. But the way that we're going to do it this year is we're actually going to let the fans vote on it. So we're picking, we had said 10, but it's probably going to be closer to 6 or 7, maybe 8, that we're going to pick, and we're going to allow them to put up a little video, about 30 seconds, as to why they should be nominated. And we're just kind of selecting, and then we're going to let the fans pick. And Jay has been nominated for Actor of the Year.
Oh, wow.
Great job all around.
Thank you.
You killed it. You led it every step of the way. And to not only be able to put on the performance that you did, but also to have to run the haunt as well. Huge round of applause, man. You absolutely
Well, thank you very much. That means a lot to me.
And you are in contention. We got 2 other people right now that are in contention, and like I said, we'll give out details on that a little bit more towards the end as to how exactly we're going to let the fans pick. But you're definitely on the list, and really enjoyed the experience and enjoyed the shit out of you, man. You did a really good job.
Thanks. Thank you.
Now the last part. Overall, you guys already know what it is. It's a motherfucking 10 out of 10. They absolutely killed it. This place kicks ass. They have earned, and we've only given this out to 3 haunts, including them now.
This will be 3.
So this will be number 3. Only the 3rd haunt to receive the Haunted Honeymooners Shut the Fuck Up and Go seal of approval.
This will be 3.
But with a small disclaimer attached to it, while it is a Shut the Fuck Up and Go seal of approval, please do your homework. Please understand what you're signing up for. It is a great, great experience. It's awesome. But please, just understand 100% what it is exactly you're signing up for. And I promise you, there's no way that man's going to let you enter the door and not know exactly what it is that you've gotten yourself into.
That's true.
So again, thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
For spending this time with us this evening and hanging out.
Absolutely.
Man, I hope that we did your haunt justice, because just it's phenomenal. And
thank you.
Eagerly waiting that email, whether it comes tomorrow or 4 months from now. We're waiting for it. Definitely want to come up to the next show and see what else you got in store. So that's
well, thanks a lot.
Everybody else that's watching, see, there's already more competition. We're already waiting to get some of the limited tickets that aren't even on sale yet. So you better be ready whenever that time comes. For now, we're going to let Justin get back to doing whatever it is he's doing. He's probably planning some torturous thing for somebody right now. But anyway.
Yeah, I've got someone strung up in the other room, and it's been quite a while. So we'll see how they are.
Yeah, we'll be all right.
No, I want to thank you guys. Thanks for this. This was great. And to you guys, because you guys drove 14 hours?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just to go to the show, and that's awesome. So thank you for doing that. We loved having you. You guys were wonderful guests. And, come back. Like, we'd love to have you. And thank you for the rating. That's very kind. Everybody's going to be excited on the crew.
Very cool. Very cool. And none of those, like I said, none of it's came too lightly. I promise. We tried really hard to figure out reasons to not give you those ratings. But they're just not there. They're just not there, man. You guys did an awesome job. And we can't wait to see what you got in the future. But
wonderful. Thank you.
We are going to we're going to relax, love each other, be good to each other. We'll see you all soon. Justin, hope to see you very soon.
Good night.